This is Join Us in France, episode 546. 546. Bonjour, I'm Annie Sargent, and Join Us in France is the podcast where we take a conversational journey through the beauty, culture, and flavors of France. Today, I bring you a conversation with Linda and Scott Rogers about their fantastic trip to France during the 2024 Olympics. They share some great experiences like watching the Olympic basketball finals in a packed park in Dijon, cycling through wine country in Burgundy, and exploring the charming towns of Annecy and Lyon. This podcast runs on chocolatine, caffeine, and the support of lovely humans like you. You book itinerary consults, take my voice map tours in Paris, ride shotgun in my electric car, come to the boot camp, or slip me a few euros on Patreon, and I love you for it. Want to keep me going and skip the ads? There's a link for that in the show notes. Head to joinusinfrance.com/boutique and vive les podcast fans. For the magazine part of the podcast, after my chat with Linda and Scott today, I'll discuss movie locations in Paris and why they are so popular. Want the links and the full transcript? It's all on the episode page at joinusinfrance.com/episodes. Bonjour, Linda and Scott Rogers, and welcome to Join Us in France.
Bonjour, thank you.
Bonjour.
Wonderful to talk to you today. You had a great trip to France. It overlapped with the Olympics, and we'll find out why in just a second. So July 2024, some of August as well, perhaps?
Yes,
So you were in France for several weeks, right?
we were traveling for several weeks and Scott was there before that even.
I was there basically for a month. I was supposed to leave on July 19th, and we came back on August 19th.
Okay, so were you there for so long? Tell us.
So I was there for the host broadcast of the Olympic Games. So I was the producer for skateboarding and BMX freestyle at Place de Concorde.
Wow.
So it was great.
Was that a good experience for you?
Oh, it's fantastic. So I've done a lot of Olympics, and Paris was definitely one of my favorites. It worked out really, really well. You know, we stayed in Montmartre. Our train stop was Place de Clichy. We rode the train sometimes to the venue, but a lot of times we walked, and it was a really nice 30-minute walk through town. The weather was perfect in the 70s. The venue was great. It was the first, Olympics in 8 years post-COVID. So we could really, have fans and everything. And it was fantastic. I had a great, great time.
And the organization, I think they did a great job, but I didn't see it from the inside as you did. Did you run into any snags with the organizers?
No, the organization was really great, really professional. Everybody, the thing about the Olympics is it's always people who've done it for their first time, most of the time, because the Olympics just go to a different city. So it can be inconsistent, but the French were great and everything ran like clockwork. There were really no problems. A lot of times the transportation, the buses and stuff can be a little finicky, but the French did a great job. I was extremely impressed.
Wonderful. And Place de la Concorde isn't, it's not bad. It looks nice.
Yeah, it really looks nice. We went to the Grand Palace, the fencing venue that was really close to us. And, everything was really close to us. And I got to do a little bit of the opening ceremonies. I was working in a truck where we were picking out dignitaries. So we went down there, but everything was great.
Fantastic. And then you also had a great trip around that with your wife, Linda. So Linda, tell us where you went and what was the gist of the trip for you? What was your idea going into this?
Well, I've wanted to go to France my whole life. And I took French, starting in grade school. And my class, when I was in fifth grade, they did a trip to France to go skiing in the Alps, and I didn't get to go. And so when we decided we were going to France, I was determined to spend a bit of time in the Alps because I'd missed that trip. That was part of it for me. We started in Paris. I met Scott there for the end of his work on the Olympics. And then we wanted to take a trip hitting a couple of different places, but not spend a huge amount of time getting from place to place. So we went from Paris to Dijon, from Dijon to Annecy, Annecy to Lyon, and back to Paris.
And this was on the train.
Yes, on the train.
We took a bus from Annecy to Lyon.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But mostly it was train.
Because?
Timing. When we got to the train station, we would have had to wait longer for a train, or then the bus was leaving and we would get there at the same time. So
Yeah. And the bus isn't bad, right? I mean, taking the bus in France is fine.
it was fine.
Yeah, the scenery was good and it's not a long trip. It was fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about some of the things. How did you plan this trip? Are you planners? Are you hyper planners? Are you people who like to take it easy? Yeah, we'll just see when we get there, whatever.
We are planners, and what we have to do is hold back from over programming so that if we over program, it's not an adventure. And so our goal was to be very comfortable with the amount of time we were spending in each place. We planned the accommodations and maybe one or two activities in each place, and that was it, because we wanted to feel like adventurers, explorers. So we had some milestone things like wanting to have a fabulous dinner in Lyon, wanting to do a bike trip through wine country. But by and large, we tried very hard to just go with the flow.
Right. So did you get bored at any time? Did you run out of things to do?
Never, never. If anything, there were one or two times where I felt a little guilty because I just wanted to get food and go up to our accommodation in Annecy and just have a little lunch at our place and take a nap. And I felt guilty that I was missing something.
Yes, yes. So, Scott, tell me, so when you show up in Annecy on the train, what's the first thing you did?
Well, before that, when we went to Dijon,
Oh, that's right. Yep.
yeah, so we went to Dijon, and again, the train, like super nice and fast. The train station, I don't know, I forget what our train station was that we were in Paris, but it was really nice train station, beautiful. You'd think with the Olympics, it's just going to be a complete zoo. It was not. So we got on the train, nice train trip. So we went to Dijon, and our little apartment was good, but it was hot. Like when we were there, it was hot, but it was still very doable. And the first thing we really did is we went on a cycling wine tour through the Burgundy area. And did we take the train to Beaune, honey?
Yeah, we did.
Probably.
We took a little train from Dijon to Beaune, and then we walked through the little town of Beaune to our bike tour. And we had such a fun time on the bike tour, just going around. And we got the electric bikes. We didn't want to have, just like be working all the time. It was a really super fun trip and just so scenic. And that's the one thing that I saw about France. It's just everywhere we went is so beautiful. Sometimes you go to places and it's like, you hear about, it's beautiful. And there's parts that are beautiful, but everywhere was beautiful. It was super fun.
I think Beaune, like that village, it sticks in my mind. I'm so glad that we didn't take an Uber or anything from the train. We walked through the village. It was magical. And the place where we did our bike tour, their setup was in the center of a park in the center of Beaune. Everything about that walk, getting there, it was just perfect and beautiful. It replays in my mind again and again.
Do you remember the name of the tour company, the bike tour company? And how did you find them?
I think I probably just found them online. I do have the name of the bike company.
Well, you can send it to me later. I'll put it in the show notes because people will want to know,
Mm-hmm.
Was it a big bike tour or was it just a few of you?
What was there, like 10 of us maybe? Yeah, 10 or 12 of us. So our guide was really good. He's classic. The guy was right out of a romance novel. He was just kind of this strapping 20-year-old guy. And, in the winter, he's ski patrol. And, his family runs a winery or does fields, and it's classic.
Cool.
But
Yes.
before we did the bike tour, when we got to Dijon, first of all, the place we stayed, it was an adventure finding it. And even though we used booking.com, they had like a secondary interface that was all in French. And so it was not the easiest. It was like, oh, we were looking for this little tiny door and you had to find the code and put that in and then go upstairs. And the place was great. It was right in the, like from our bed, you could see the cathedral spires, but finding it was a bit of an adventure. But when we walked through Dijon, to me, walking through that village, that city, it felt like the background of a Shakespearean play. It was so picturesque and beautiful. And it just, every place I looked, I couldn't believe how beautiful it is.
A movie set.
It was a set. It was absolutely a movie set. But we had a very interesting experience in Dijon, and it was Olympic related. And I'll let Scott take it from there.
So, well, because, we left Paris with there's like 4 or 5 days left in the games. And, my job, I work for the Utah Jazz of the NBA doing basketball television. So I was extremely interested in the basketball part of the Olympics. So when we were there, the second night, we went out to dinner and then we came back and turned on the TV and the U.S. was like down 14 to Serbia in the quarterfinal. Like if they lost, like the USA would lose, which is like unbelievable. So they came back and won that. So I'm like, oh, so we're going to watch the gold medal game against France in Dijon. I was like, where should we watch it? Well, we found out that there's a park where they had a big screen set up. So to go and watch it there. We had dinner. We walked into this park. Park is packed with people to watch this game. And we're the only Americans. I didn't see any other Americans there. We got there too late to get a seat. So we're standing with these French people. And the US is basically killing the French for like 2/3 of the game. And then in the fourth quarter gets down, Victor Wembanyama, who was unbelievable, brings France back to within 3. And then Steph Curry starts making threes. It was fantastic. The best part is like at the end, it's like Curry would get the ball, the whole crowd would go, oh no. And
Yeah.
like make 2 more threes. And it's cool because it's like, and I love being on the road when you're winning on the road. And the French, like they were so into it and they were bummed that they lost, but like I think everybody appreciated like what a good game it was. And it's like, and one of the things that, when I go to the Olympics, I really try to, especially for the opening ceremonies, is to be with the locals just to see how proud everybody is of their country and you get the real flavor of it. And that was a different experience watching that gold medal game in France with the French, but it was just as good. That's the kind of thing you want to do in Olympics. And that's why it's like, I tell anybody, if you ever have a chance to go to the Olympics, get your accommodations set and then figure it out. Because you can always go get tickets or whatever, but it's like nothing else you've ever been to. The vibe around it is always just, it's indescribable, and it's like, and you're seeing people and you get the feeling of, these are people that work their whole lives for this moment and the pressure is unbelievable. But the home country, the people from the home country in the Olympics nearly all the time rise to the occasion, and to have the crowd behind you, like there's just really nothing like it.
Yeah, the ambiance was great. I mean, I just went to some basketball in Lille and the ambiance was great. And then we went to Paralympics for a whole week. So we went to lots of events. And even for the Paralympics, people were really excited. It was really fun. It was wonderful.
The other thing we did in Dijon is we planned a very good meal there. It was like a Michelin recommended restaurant, Parapluie. And wasn't that the name of it? Parapluie?
Yeah, you have parapluiedijon.com.
The food was very inventive. It was very different. Some of it was Asian influenced. And we were sitting, on a cobblestone sidewalk. And it was a very French experience.
So this was a starred restaurant?
No,
I don't know if it was a start or a recommend.
Okay, so maybe a Michelin Bib, the recommended, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was price fixed. So it's like, this is what we're having today. So, and it was really good. And it's not like a place where if you were walking by it, you're like, oh, that's a big time restaurant. Not like that at all. It was a small place and it was right around the corner from our Airbnb. It was great.
All right, fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, so Annecy, you enjoyed as well. I mean, how can you not enjoy Annecy? Tell me more about that. What did you do? What did you particularly like?
Well, I was determined for that where we would stay would be right, in the heart of the village looking at the canal. And so we ended up staying in, this was I guess it was an Airbnb. It was a loft on the 4th floor above a restaurant in the middle of the town. And it was, they were having a heat wave in Annecy, in all of France.
Yeah.
And, you're not getting air conditioning. It's just not going to happen. But when we found our place, it was kind of a scavenger hunt. It was, okay, look for this restaurant and then look for this little door and then put the code in. And then you're going to go through a tunnel and then you'll see stone steps. It was just this scavenger hunt. And the tunnel was in between 2 restaurants. And both of them, their ovens or stoves exhausted into the tunnel. And so the tunnel was like 140 degrees. So we had to just like bolt through this tunnel to get to the steps and then go up these 4 flights of stone steps, like really treacherous. And then we were at this amazing loft overlooking the canals.
Wow.
So it was absolutely perfect, but we were very strategic about, okay, are we leaving the loft right now? Do we have everything we need so we don't have to come back up and, don't forget anything? Because it was really getting through that little tunnel. Whew, it was so hot and there was no air in the tunnel. It was just heat, pure heat. But it was a beautiful, very French little place. And the terrace had a hammock and you could look at all of the action below and watch the storms roll in. And it was really, really, really beautiful. But I know, Scott, you really loved that place, right?
Well, we liked the hammock so well that Linda got me one for Christmas. We could recreate our little balcony in Annecy at our house now. And we're looking around at all these places. We were like the only people that had a balcony and we had a little bit of a breeze. We saw the sunsets all the time. It was so much fun. And then, we were like a 3-minute walk to the lake from there and walking through the little streets of all the little shops and the ice cream, a big deal in Annecy. Like every 4th place is an ice cream shop.
Yes.
The lake was beautiful.
This is spectacular. I assume you biked around the lake. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you rent the bikes ahead of time or did you just go? Because you can just go to the lake and there's a bike rental thing right there. Several of them.
Bunch of places. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of people riding bikes, but the path is so good. Like it was crowded, but it wasn't like you were really slow or anything like that. It was so nice. And we got to see so many paragliders. So people come off the mountain on the far side of the lake, paragliding in. That was great. And it was a super nice sunny day. And I figured that lake, you look at the lake, you're in the Alps. It's like that water must be cold. We're like, dude, I don't know. And then I stuck my hand in. I'm like, oh, this is nice. So we got back. Did we do it the same? No, we didn't do it the same day as the bike ride, but we went and rented paddle boats, paddled out, not to the middle of the lake, but a little farther out and jumped in the water and swam. And the water temperature was perfect. It wasn't cold. It wasn't too hot. And it was just super nice. I loved being on the lake.
Well, so you guys live in Utah. So I'm used to lakes in Utah. They are mighty cold by comparison.
Yes.
Yes, because they're high mountain lakes. They're very, very cold, much colder than Lake Annecy. How long did the ride around the lake take you?
Well, we had lunch. So I bet it like the whole time we were out there, 3 hours, you think, honey, with lunch and everything?
Maybe a little longer, 3-4 hours.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
We did a very leisurely lunch just found this little spot. We stopped at 2 places. One was a little coffee breakfast place specifically for bikers and hikers. And then the lunch place we stopped, it just had this big terrace overlooking the lake.
Oh.
And we got a bottle of wine and just had this perfect leisurely lunch and then got back on the bikes. So it was great.
That's fantastic.
The other side of the lake from Annecy, that definitely has some hills. We were really glad we had the electric bikes there, because if you didn't have the electric bike, you'd be walking up for, unless you're Lance Armstrong or whatever. So.
Oh, that's good to know, because I haven't done it. I walked part of the way. I didn't go all the way around. So I wouldn't have known that there was some hills.
Yeah, there's definitely some hills. And on the other part, the traffic is a little more like the bike path isn't the big wide bike path like on the Annecy part of the lake, but it was still doable. But that's definitely, unless you're a real cyclist, I would highly recommend getting a pedal assist bike if you're going to do that trip.
Fantastic. So I assume that you hadn't booked restaurants and things like that ahead of time. You just saw it, right? And went.
I'd booked like one restaurant in each city, but when we were in Annecy, we ended up canceling our reservation that I'd made because of timing. But I will say that when we were looking for a restaurant one of the nights, it was tricky because it was August. And several of the places that we had recommended to us by the guy that owned the apartment we were staying in and by guidebooks, they were closed. And so one of the nights, we probably tried 4 or 5 places before we found a place to eat. And not that we minded. It was just like walking through the beautiful town. But certainly if you're going in August, and you had told us this, and we knew this, that the possibility of places being closed was pretty great. And so we did find that a little tricky.
I think one thing that's maybe a little bit of a misnomer is you hear like, oh, don't go to France in August, everywhere is closed. It's not everywhere is closed. It's just like some places are closed, some places are not, and it's not like they're closed for 3 weeks. They're closed for a week, so it's like you could do it, but it's just, yes, there's some inconveniences, but it's not as bad as you might think.
Yeah, and especially if you're willing to just roll with the punches a little bit and just go, well, this one's closed, let's go to another one. You won't starve.
One of the things that made Annecy extra special, I think, is the rainstorms. Where we were, our loft, it had a covered terrace. And so we could sit out there when it was raining and watch these storms roll in. One of the nights, it poured. Absolutely poured rain. And it just made, everything was just shiny and people were huddled in places. And it was really extra special. Like all of the restaurants have little covers that go out onto the cobblestone walkways. But then in between where one tent ends and another begins, there's these areas where it was all wet and people are running from place to place. And it just was really made it extra fun, I think. Don't you think, Scott?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. The rain, well, it just cleared everything out and made everything really nice. And we were also at Annecy the one day when they had the market come in. And so the streets there are super narrow anyway. And then we woke up in the morning because we wanted to go to the market. Then we came out of our door and it's like, hey, it's right here.
Yeah.
And so we're just like, we're walking through and they have all this stuff. And it's like, how do they even get this stuff here? And then it's like in the afternoon, you come back and it's like it never happened. It's like everything's gone. The logistics of doing that, pretty impressive.
Well, they do this every week and every day. Most of the vendors, they're in Annecy one day and then they go to a different town the next day. They work every day. They don't just come the one week, the one day a week. They're just used to it. But it's true that in Annecy, because they fill up the paths all around the river. And so there's places where it's kind of narrow and over the bridges as well and stuff. It's beautiful. It's a very pleasant town. I found it picture perfect. In many areas are picture perfect. As soon as you walk towards the train stations and beyond, it's a real French city. It's not all scenic as the city center. The historical center is, but this is true almost anywhere you go. Like yesterday, again, I was in Béziers with Elise. Béziers is the same. It has a lovely historical city center. And then a little further away, well, it's a French city. It has apartment buildings and things that are not as scenic, obviously. So,
Well, in Annecy, down by when you walk out of the city center towards the lake, there's a big park all along the lake. And it was filled with activity, with families. And it was very charming to see. I mean, it was a different vibe than the old town part,
yeah.
but it was just families out there having picnics and stuff for the day. And that was really nice to see as well.
Mm-hmm. How many days would you say people should spend in Annecy so that they have time to do all of this?
Were we there 3 nights, Dolly? I think that was.
Yeah, we were there 3 nights. We were there 4 days. And I think if you wanted to use that as a jumping off point to go to, I know there's waterfalls and Mont Blanc and things like that, you could be there longer. Or if you wanted to go to Geneva, for us, we didn't want to rent a car. And so that amount of time was really adequate. It felt right. And we were ready to move on to Lyon after that, for sure.
Yeah. There is a fast-ish train that you can take between Annecy and Geneva if you want to do that. If you want to go take the train to go to Geneva for the day, that's doable. It's an hour and 20 minutes or something. And some trains are slower. I did it. I don't remember what all the schedules were, but yeah, there are trains that you can take if you would like. How about Dijon? I didn't ask you about how long to spend in Dijon.
Were we there 2 nights?
Yeah, Dijon, Dijon was fine. I think 2 nights is fine for what we did. I mean, the city's really nice, but it's more the stuff around the city, more like doing the bun things. I would say between the two, spending more time in Annecy than Dijon is probably the way to do it.
And then you could stay in Beaune or Dijon. They're both lovely cities, different, but Dijon is bigger.
Yeah, for sure.
Very good. All right. You also went to Lyon. How much time did you spend in Lyon?
I think we were there 3 nights.
Yeah, we were in Lyon 3 nights.
Was that sufficient?
Yes.
Yeah, 3 nights in Lyon. I think one of the things there is we were there during a holiday. And so some of the things that I specifically wanted to do, we couldn't do. I wanted to explore some of the cooking and go to a couple of restaurant supply places to get some, because I like to cook and I wanted to get some things from there. And they were closed because it was Ascension of Mary, I think.
Yeah, the 15th of August.
Yes, we didn't realize that things would be closed that day.
Yeah, kitchen supply stores are not, they don't stay open if it's a holiday. Because, professionals are not going to go to the kitchen supply store on a holiday.
Right. And we didn't realize it was a holiday. So that city is stunning. It is just stunningly beautiful. We knew it would be. We read that it would be, but it still took me by surprise.
Huh.
It's a really good walking city. There's a lot of good places to walk, and we're close to the river, but our side of the river, we walked all over the place and just saw a lot of really cool things. And then one night we went to the dinner at a food hall across the river, and then we were in the old town, or what is it called, Dolly? Was it called Old Town or?
I don't remember, but it was bustling.
Yes. So there's actually 2 rivers that go through Lyon. It's a big city, but that city center vibe around the cathedral, because you have the basilica up on the hill, but you also have the cathedral lower down, and around the cathedral is bustling a lot.
Yeah.
That's where the food hall was. And yeah, it was so festive. It was just festive. People of all ages, just out having fun. There was a full moon. It was really special.
Right. And so you booked a special dinner at something called the Red Circle?
Yes.
So Cercle Rouge. Okay. Never heard of it.
That was our best dinner that we had in France.
Ah.
Definitely. That place was great.
Huh.
And that was a Michelin recommend. And we asked the guy, I'm like, this is so good. It's like, you guys got to be close to getting a star. And he's like, we probably could get a star, but then the prices go way up and we kind of price ourselves out of it. So we're right where we want to be. But yeah, that Circle Rouge place, I would highly, highly recommend.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. Yeah, a starred restaurant is a different business altogether because once you have a star, it becomes kind of a show. They have to, talk to you about the food. They have to display the food in certain ways. Yeah, it's more of a theater kind of experience than simply having dinner. And some people love that and some people don't. You'll find both types of people.
The restaurant was in a very charming 2-story building, like really narrow, really tiny little, I mean, I don't know how many tables they had, but not many. And the steps, we were seated upstairs and they were very treacherous, freaky old steps to get up there. But it was just, I don't know, the service was amazing. The food was amazing. The setting, everything was just magical. The night we had booked to eat there, they called us and they said, "Oh, we have to switch your booking because we're closing for August." So they got us in a day earlier and it was their last night serving before they were taking off for like 2 or 3 weeks. I was a little concerned that, maybe it wouldn't be as good because they're getting ready to close. It was amazing. Really beautiful food.
Yeah, if you're going to go to Michelin Bib restaurants, you need to book those in advance because they are always full. People know about this and they reserve ahead of time. That's one type of restaurant that I really recommend if that's what you want to do. And I recommend them. I've been to all kinds of different Michelin Bib restaurants. Some I've liked better than others. They all have their own style, but I'm never disappointed. The food is always good. The service is always good. It's a kind of a safe value, I guess. And you don't pay that much. I mean, you'll pay what, 70, 80 per person or something?
Yeah, that was about. So we were going to go to the big time Paul something. It was like a 20.
Paul Bocuse.
Yeah, we were going to go to that one. We had it reserved and they like needed, you were like $300 in before you ever showed up. And then Linda's like, we don't need to do that. And it's like, that's a place like you got to have the right clothes. And I was like, but we're in France and we want to do, the Michelin thing. And Linda's like, no, we'll find something that doesn't take that. And I was extremely happy with the way we did it.
Yeah. Michelin star restaurants are wonderful, but you do have to, I mean, you don't have to dress up, but most people do a little bit and it will take longer. It will, because somebody's going to, we were laughing about this with Elise yesterday. They will serve you something that's the size of an olive, but before they give it to you, they will talk your ears off for 5 minutes describing why the chef makes this and how he makes this and why he's so special for making this. And I'm like, oh, just give me the damn thing.
Yeah.
But, I'm impatient. That's what it is. All right. So you enjoyed Lyon very much.
Lyon was great.
I think 3 days is probably a little short. Perhaps an extra 4 nights might have been better. I don't know.
For us, because especially for me, I hadn't spent much time in Paris.
Aha.
And so at that point, I was ready. I was very ready to get back to Paris and kind of have our adventure. Because when I got to Paris, Scott was still working. And so I had one day there by myself walking around. And then the next day we went to Dijon. And I have to say, the first day I walked around by myself in Paris, you had recommended that I go to a cemetery in Montmartre.
Montmartre, yeah.
By our hotel. It was an amazing place to spend several hours.
Yeah.
And it was super interesting because it's kind of below the street level a little bit. And so I had to walk around and kind of follow the wall till I found an entrance.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like a secret entrance. And I walked in and all of the hustle and bustle from street level just faded away. And you're in this quiet space. Everything is overgrown and green, and there's hardly any people there. And it was very dramatic. and it was very shaded from these giant trees. And of course, there was a black cat that crossed my path the second I walked in. And it was really something.
It was fun.
You have to be someone who I happen to like walking through cemeteries.
Yeah, they are interesting. There's some famous French people, mostly buried there. So to me, everybody wants to go to Père Lachaise, and it's a great cemetery. But the Montmartre cemetery is also it's very good. If you're going to spend the day, it's more French vibe.
It just blew my mind, really. It did. I would say the only place I've been that is even close to it is some of the cemeteries in New Orleans.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it was really, really something. So thank you for that recommendation. I
Most welcome.
was so glad to have gone there.
So what were your top activities in Paris, would you say, Linda, since this was your first time?
Oh, gosh, that is...
You mentioned the Latin Quarter.
We stayed in the Latin Quarter, and the overall festive vibe of the Latin Quarter in the evening is not to be missed. There were so many interesting restaurants, little places, a lot of international, like one of the places we ate was a Greek place that made gyros in like a French kind of way. We went to see the Monet exhibit at the Lingerie.
Lingerie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's something that your whole life you're familiar with Monet. And then to go there and have that experience was really kind of something I'm so glad we did. I also have to say, and I know this sounds so corny, but the Eiffel Tower was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so huge and so beautiful. It's just mind-blowing when you're standing underneath it. And I did not expect that. I felt like I don't really care if I go to the Eiffel Tower. And oh my gosh, it was really, really, really amazing.
Yeah, it's an interesting place. It's beautiful. And it is, like you said, it's more stunning than, I guess you've seen representations of it like a million times. But seeing it for real is great.
Yeah.
It really is. There's one other thing there's two other things, and I'm talking too much. I should let Scott answer this.
You mentioned, Scott, that you enjoyed the Jardin du Luxembourg very much.
Yeah, that was great.
Talk about that.
The Luxembourg Gardens were pretty close to our hotel. The walk going there was just as fun, and it was a little misty, but those grounds were fantastic and just so well manicured. And the place is huge. You don't really realize it when you're outside it, but it's a huge place and it's so nice. I loved walking around it and just kind of being there when it was a little bit misty. We took some really cool pictures and that was really nice. And I guess there's like a lot of places like that in Paris, right?
Oh, yeah. The two big parks in Paris that everybody knows are Jardin du Luxembourg, Jardin des Tuileries. But you also have Parc Monceau, you have Les Buttes Chaumont, which are also very nice. Yeah, you have a bunch of them. We did a whole episode about all the parks in Paris. If you're interested in that, we have an episode where we list all of them and what you can find in them. They are all wonderful, especially in the summertime.
That was really cool. The other thing that was cool, so Notre Dame was really close to us. So we walked over to Notre Dame, and of course, it was still a pretty active construction site. But one of the coolest things we saw there was in front of it, they had these really nice pictures of the people that were restoring it and little stories about them. And I thought that was so classy and so cool. And, just like what Notre Dame means to the French and the care in the restoration. And to make these people like stars that they were working on, I thought that was really, really cool. And then, just a few weeks ago, just to see the inside of it and what they've done.
It's very cool.
It was really impressive to see how much people cared about what was going on with that and just the detail they used to, restore that place. I don't know if you've been in it or since, but it seems like what they've made it now is probably better than it's ever been, right?
Yeah. I'm going back in a couple of weeks. So I haven't been back yet, but I'm going back in a couple of weeks. And from the video and the photos, it looks stunning. I really very much look forward to it.
One of the other things that I did when Scott was working is I did your audio tour through Le Marais. That was great. I mean, here I am, I'm alone for the day. Scott's working. I had your podcast, and it was just like I had this companion. Annie is with me going through Le Marais, and it was just this crazy, fun, guided adventure. And it really brought it to life for me. And again, made me feel like I had a friend with me. I highly recommend doing that. And in fact, we had friends that went there right after us. And I said, oh, you've got to get Annie's podcast and walk through Le Marais.
Yeah, the voice map tours, they make it simple because I just tell you where to go and tell you a little bit about it and then, accompany you, walk around with you. It's kind of a fun thing to do. We're going to be running out of time soon, but what would you give to people who are going to do a similar trip? Some advice when coming to France, what do you want to tell them about?
I would say, especially if you are American, you need to relax into the French culture. It seems to me that French people have this calm confidence about them that I describe it this way. In America, if you're waiting to get on an elevator and the doors open, Americans will rush into the elevator before people have had the chance to get out. French people won't do that. You have to kind of set aside your American elbowing people to get in your place in line and just be calm and enjoy it, because that's what the culture is about. And we have a lot we could learn from that style of living. And I really appreciated the fact that it wasn't just a vacation. It was like a culture shift for 2 weeks that I've tried to bring back with me of, just be calm and patient, and everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to. I really felt a calm in France that our culture doesn't have, and I wish we had more of.
It's more hurried in the US. People they work so much. What would you say, Scott?
Well, one of the things, if you're going to do what we did, and, Linda was really key about this, is get your accommodations down. When you get there, it's like the fly-by-sea or night for accommodations, we had that handled. Then after that, you just have to be open, and you're going to walk. You're going to use the public transportation. Be used to that. If we took an Uber, like we took 2 Ubers, and the other thing is the misconception is France is not like, if you don't speak English, you're in trouble. It's not. You're fine. The English factor was pretty high. Most people know some. You have your Google Translate. And the one thing that you always said is we said bonjour. The first thing we said when we met any people is bonjour to everybody. And I think that it was disarming. And I think you take that's the Americans out of it, and it's like people know that you're not going to be asking for something or whatever. So that was really important. And we really took that to heart. As silly as it sounds, it made a huge difference.
Yes. It's like you're part of the club. You understand how French people work.
Yeah.
And disarming. You said disarming. I like that. Because, sometimes when you meet a person for the first time, even in a service situation, people might have a kind of brusque reaction. But if you say bonjour, he's one of us. He knows how to handle a social situation. That's great. That's wonderful.
One of the really cool things is, so we went to L'Orangerie. It was on a Sunday morning, and we were going to take the train there from the Latin Quarter. But we got there, and there was some train thing that wasn't happening. There was a woman that was kind of waiting for the train with us and was being said in French. She's like, oh, the train's not coming for 40 minutes. And it's like, oh, man. It's like, well, we need to go to L'Orangerie. She's like, come with me. I'm going down there too. I'm working at the museum. So we got to walk with a woman. She's probably 21. She was like a college student. She spoke really good English. And, we just got to a really immersive, like, how does a young person in France do it? And we got a really good 15 minutes walk with her. She was so charming and so nice. College student that's going to school, but she works at a museum, and she was just super friendly. And I think that's one thing. And like all the French people that I had interactions with the Olympics, we have a lot of students that work at the Olympics, and they were all great. And so that's one thing I would say, if you're in France, really try to have a local experience and get with the people. They're very proud of France and they want to share it with you. And that was really one of the nice little unexpected things that happened to us.
Fantastic. Well, we really have to stop talking because we've been going on a long time. But it's been really interesting to hear your perspective on this. And I'm glad that you went out of Paris a little bit. That's great. Many more places for you to visit on different trips.
Yeah.
But you didn't try to overschedule. You didn't try to run all over the creation. So good on you. You did great. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's wonderful talking to you again.
Thanks for having us, Annie.
Thank you for doing the podcast, because we listened to a lot of episodes before we left the US and we felt prepared.
Wonderful.
So thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.
Merci. Au revoir.
Merci.
Again, a big thank you to my wonderful patrons. Your support makes this podcast possible week after week. I'm pre-recording a few episodes right now, so no shout-outs today, but I have not forgotten you. Every single patron keeps the lights on at Join Us in France. If you've been enjoying the show and want to give back, consider joining us on Patreon. It starts at just $3 a month, and you'll get access to exclusive rewards and ad-free episodes as soon as they are ready. Visit patreon.com/join us. That's Patreon. Join us, no spaces or dashes, to learn more. And if you're already a patron, merci beaucoup. You're the reason this show keeps going. And to support Elise, of course, go to patreon.com/EliseArt, ELYSART. I'm recording this ahead, so I don't have any new reviews to share. But if you're curious about what other listeners think of my voice map tours, head over to joinusinfrance.com/VMR. That stands for Voice Map Reviews. You'll find lots of feedback from fellow travelers who walk the streets of Paris with me in their ear. Maybe your review will be the next one I read. Podcast listeners get a big discount for buying these tours from my website. It's best for me as well because I get to keep more of what you pay instead of giving it to Apple or Google. But if you buy from my boutique, it's a manual process, so don't expect it to be instant like it would be if you were buying directly from VoiceMap. But most of you listening plan their trips at least a few weeks in advance, perhaps a few months in advance. So you're probably not in a rush. To use your code, open VoiceMap, tap Tour Codes at the bottom right, enter the code, and download the tour. You own it forever. Even if you change phones, you just log into your VoiceMap account to access it again. The tours work without data because the audio, images, and maps are downloaded to your phone, and GPS works anywhere, even without cell service. And best of all, you can listen in virtual playback from anywhere in the world. Perfect if Paris is not in your immediate plans. You can take me in your pocket with my voice map tours. If you're planning a trip to France and want expert help, you can hire me as your itinerary consultant. It's a busy season, so book early at joinusinfrance.com/boutique. Usually I have openings within a month, but right now it's more like 2 or 3 months, so don't wait if that's something you want to do. Let's talk about movie locations in Paris and why they are so very, very popular. Have you ever wanted to just sit at a cafe in Paris and enjoy life like Amélie Poulain? You're not alone. That exact feeling brings thousands of movie lovers to Montmartre every year because, let's face it, few films have captured the magic of Paris quite like Le Fabuleux Destin d'Amélie Poulain. In this postcard-perfect corner of the city, you'll find real places made famous by the film. There's the Collignon grocery store where Lucien, played by Jamel Debbouze, works, and of course, the legendary Café des Deux Moulins, where Amélie serves coffee. It's been 24 years since the movie came out, and people still flock to these places hoping to capture a bit of the whimsical Paris that Amélie showed us. Marc Fouchedouard, the owner of the cafe, says people come for the atmosphere, for a glimpse of Paris that doesn't quite exist anymore. He still sees about 2 marriage proposals a month there. Some are touching, some are, let's just say, creatively complicated. One Japanese tourist told a reporter that she cried when she arrived. She's been dreaming of this moment for 24 years. Another tourist said she made it her mission to see every spot from the film, the Canal Saint-Martin, Montmartre, everything. I just want to sit here and enjoy life like Amélie, she said. And I get it. I mean, I've included some of these spots in my Montmartre walking tour as well because they're fun, you know. Globally, 23 million people have seen the film. There's a lot of eyes on Paris. And according to Sophie Cazès, who leads the city's cinema mission, seeing movies like Émilie Poulain or Emily in Paris really does inspire people to book a trip. She says 8 out of 10 foreign tourists say a film or series made them want to visit Paris. That is huge. Of course, Amélie isn't alone anymore. Emily, yes, that Emily from Emily in Paris, I mean, she's taken over in recent years. She lives in Place de l'Estrapade, just around the corner from the Panthéon. According to one tourist, Emily always gets her pain au chocolat from the local bakery. So naturally, he brought his girlfriend there for the full experience. And it seems silly to me at first, but I do include Emily in Paris locations in my itinerary consults because people really love going there. Paris hosts over 5,000 days of filming every year. That includes TV shows, movies, commercials, music videos, you name it. City officials work hard to make sure it does not disrupt life for residents. They schedule shots during school holidays, ask production teams to get parking passes in advance, and remind them to communicate with neighbors. It makes sense because these shoots happen in real, lived-in neighborhoods. And let's not forget the big-budget American production. Remember the Da Vinci Code with Tom Hanks and Audrey Tautou? The famous Louvre scene was filmed in 2005. Or Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise tearing through the streets of Paris at 120 kilometers an hour. No helmet, of course. That was 2017. And yes, it was all carefully planned with the city and the police. Foreign productions now make up almost 20% of all filming in Paris. Americans top the list. Favorite locations include Place de l'Étoile, Place de Mexico for the Eiffel Tower view. I gotta go see that one. Place de Mexico and Avenue d'Eylau, so that's spelled D''Eylau. You will see a very nice view of the Eiffel Tower in the distance, and there's even a cafe there, if you're lucky enough to find a table. And of course, the Pont Bir-Hakeim, which I included in my Eiffel Tower walk. The bridge was the backdrop for a wild stunt by Jean-Paul Belmondo back in 1975. So Paris and cinema, it's a love story that just keeps on going. And if you're like me, maybe next time you're in Montmartre, you'll pause, take it all in and say, I just want to sit here and enjoy life like Amélie Poulain. My thanks to podcast editors Anne and Christian Codovan, who produced the transcripts and the audio. Next week on the podcast, get ready for a fun journey with 25 days of French magic with Ken Ives. Ken went to charming cities, of course, historic battlefields, beautiful caves, and enchanting nature reserves. As always, you'll come along for the trip, discover hidden gems, savor mouth-watering regional dishes, and soak in the centuries of history. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you join me next time so we can look around France together. Au revoir. The Join Us in France Travel Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2025 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.